does it work with the jurors when they decide? Does it have to be unanimous? Like, it's got to be a unanimous, or they're not guilty, or
all
either
guilty,
way?
all not guilty.
Yeah.
Or hung jury.
Or it's hung.
And so that's what they mean by like the jury's in there for hours upon hours because they have to all be unanimous.
They're digging that.
Yes.
Well, why don't you think it's guilty? Why do you think it's not guilty? You know, whatever that is, and then they're discussing it.
Does the judge have any say in that final, or no?
No.
So when there's a jury, the judge is just like the referee, pretty
He's
much.
like, not it, I'm out. I've done my job. He charges the jury, gives them the law is what that means. And then they have to take
The facts and apply it to the law.
And I think it's kind of crazy that, so I didn't realize this, but so it's discretionary in South Carolina whether a judge allows you to take notes or not. I called a judge friend of mine because it was like it's been debated back and forth. They've had to, because every jury I've ever had, every case I've ever tried, they had a notepad, right? They weren't allowed to take it home, but they were allowed to have a notepad. That way, when they heard facts or times, they could write it all down.
Right.
But Judge Newman does not allow them to have notepads.
Interesting.
So they can't take any notes. So this is a lot, and we're not seeing any demonstrative.
Yeah, there's a lack of charts,
Like no charts.
diagrams.
Yeah. I went back and found the chart that you made for our closing argument.
Yeah.
I was like so proud of that. I was like, yeah, this is what it needs to be like. Serious. Like everybody's like laughing at me.
The jury's trying to make sense. I'm excited. What comes next is the defense. I don't know what that is. Hopefully Alec testifies. I would.
Just for
If he
entertainment
was
value.
my client, advise him not to, but whatever he's going to do. I'm excited for closing arguments because I've been very confused by the story the prosecution's telling, so I'm excited to hear them sum it all up.
Wrap it up, yeah.
And like, what was I supposed to get from all this?
Yeah.
Yeah, so I'm excited for closing arguments.
Yeah.
I don't know that we're going to get what we would like to get.
Oh, I have a feeling. No,
I'm still gonna be
nothing's getting tied up with a bow.
I'm still going to be confused, but I want them to say, like, what
What were you
where
trying to do? Yeah.
You know, where were you going?
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
Give me your roadmap.
Well, what was it? Because, like, so opening arguments, you're allowed to talk about evidence that you think is going to come in. Opening statements, right? Because closing arguments, you're allowed to actually argue all the stuff that's come in. So that's where you get to really hear the lawyers sort of tie it all together for you,
Right.
and what they think all this evidence means. And so I really want to hear what the prosecution thinks this means. As far as
One
the
thing
murders go.
I learned, I want to say, I don't know if it was at trial college or one of the CLEs, but they teach you when you are trying a case, A, B, C, right? Always be closing. That everything that you do is supposed to tie back into your closing argument. And I just haven't seen that.
Yeah, there's so many things that I'm like, how is this relevant to closing?
You know that
Like,
saying.
how is this relevant to your closing, your story, the whole thing?
There's not one. There was never a
I want
story
them to
begin
do
with.
it. I want them to take every fact and I want them to put it.
Tell me what everyone
make
told
sense.
me that went along with your story.
I wanna know.
Normally,
I
you would
wanna
get up
know
there and
about
an
the
opening
groundskeeper.
statement. You
I
would
wanna
make it
know.
all about bad police. You know, you're going to put the police department on sleds going on trial here. You know, this is the worst policing I've ever seen. That's what we would
It is.
expect,
It's
right?
pretty bad.
That's what Dick or Bloom should have said. You know what you're going to not hear? You're not going to hear about anybody doing anything right. You know what I mean? And,
Yeah.
and now the real killer is running free or whatever you're going to say. But we didn't hear any of that. Normally you hear, and Alec did this and this and this, and this is why he killed him, and we're going to prove it by showing you this, this, and this. We hadn't seen that either. We didn't hear that in opening, and we hadn't seen it this far.
No.
All we've heard is a bunch of junk.
It just all sorts of things. So I really want them to. I want them to sit down and gather. I wish I could be a fly on the wall in that process where everyone has their notepad and they're all like, all right, what got in and what didn't and how are we going to use it?
They're like, they got this big old, they've got their big Post-it note, right? And they got somebody's got a Sharpie, and they're like, okay, let's
Did we get that in
brainstorm.
and how do we use it?
Yeah.
That would be.
To tell a cohesive
Yeah,
story.
that would be.
Because normally you have a theme,
Entertaining.
right? And you have a story. So we know what happens. So like bad police work would be a theme, right? That you would have as a defense attorney. Or I guess their theme is he's a thief, so he killed somebody. Like, thieves are equivalent to murderers would be their theme, but they just didn't say it.
Mm-hmm.
And normally you hear these like little punches of like, that kind of like bring it back to your closing. Like she was saying, like in our case, we would say, does that make sense? Like, they left a box cutter beside this lady's head and didn't take any evidence. Does that make sense? Does it make sense that his DNA was nowhere to be found? These are the things that you constantly kind of like tie back to, but we've not seen any of that anywhere.
Yeah.
So we're hoping that we get something in this
I'm
closing
hoping
argument.
it's going to be good. It's all gonna make sense.
I mean,
know
we
it.
It's all gonna make sense. As she says it,
I spent 4 weeks in it, and it doesn't make sense right now. But it's all gonna make. Don't you
And I
just
just
wait?
think, like,
It's
as
gonna all
us
make
watching
sense.
it, you know, not that we recycle themes or stories or things, but there's some that are just like a thread that you can find a way to weave into every trial. So as you watching it, Rainey, or just like the common person, maybe you don't know in juries, like it's the first time they've ever heard that theme before. But for us, it's like you watch a criminal trial, you can kind of see where people are going, and it's not like people are reinventing the wheel all the time. Like you have to, but you can kind of see. Here, I see nothing familiar to me.
Well, but even if you don't realize that there's supposed to be a theme there, there's not so much like
We feel like
chaotic confusion.
They're just throwing shit against the wall and trying to get something to stick is what it feels like.
Right. It's just so much, nothing makes sense. Nothing makes
gonna be good.
sense.
Closing arguments.
And you kind of like, as I watch it,
I'm getting popcorn. I'm having snacks.
I kind of tune out a little bit at times.
We are shutting down the lovely law firm for closing argument. It's going down.
Well, we have been, like I said, live streaming all of the trial from the beginning. But even before that, even before the trial started, we were doing these chats, Carolina Justice Reports, for over a year now. So we are very invested, right? But we are going to keep live streaming all the trial, and we are going to pop in there a couple times with podcasts kind of along the way, as well as these Carolina Justice Report updates. If you guys have questions, I know so many of you have been watching on the live stream. Love the comments and the questions you guys are posting in there, so we'll be sure to answer those as we kind of do these chats. But of course, let us know. You can always visit us online at justiceislovely.com. We're on YouTube, we're on Facebook, Instagram, Twitter, everywhere that you consume your social media, and we would love to hear from you. Thanks so much for watching today. We'll see you next time.
When life gets ugly, justice is